Welcome to Law Story. This is part 6 of our Colonel Gaddafi series. By the early 90s, Libya had become one of the most isolated nations on earth. The Lockerbie and UTA bombings had brought international outrage, and the world was closing in on Muammar Gaddafi. On the 31st of March 1992, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 748, imposing sanctions on Libya for refusing to hand over the two men accused of the Lockerbie bombing.
The Libyan people is as much as a victim as the victims of the Lockerbie accident itself. Once again, it is proven that the aims of the two governments are political.
The sanctions included a ban on international flights to and from Libya, an arms embargo preventing Libya from purchasing weapons, restrictions on the sale of oil equipment and aviation parts. For a country heavily reliant on oil exports and international trade, the impact was immediate. On the 11th of November 1993, the Security Council tightened the screws with Resolution 883, freezing Libyan assets abroad and banning exports of key oil refining technology. Western governments believed only crippling pressure would force Gaddafi to cooperate. The effect inside Libya was severe: shortages of spare parts, inflation, and declining living standards.
Any kind of sanctions, it will never affect the political system. We have the Iraqi example in front of us, and no matter how the sanctions can be harder, the American new law of punishing companies who investing money in Libya, it will never affect the system. The system is having enough money to spend on itself and on its soldiers and officials, and the people may suffer if more sanctions are. But the present sanctions are not affecting anything. It's just symbolic.
At home, discontent grew. Dissident groups, particularly the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, carried out attacks against government forces. In response, Gaddafi unleashed brutal crackdowns, declaring, "We will not allow the agents of imperialism to destroy our revolution." Despite repression, whispers of unrest showed the vulnerability of his rule.
وأصبر فيك موهبتي أناشيدا وألحاني وتكسبني مهاراتي تزيد بخطوتي شاني وطاقاتي أفجرها في جو الحب روحاني وتكسبني مهاراتي تزيد بخطوتي شاني وطاقاتي أفجرها في جو الحب روحاني زيارات تقدمها لنا يا مركز الحاني.
Unable to win back Arab allies after the Camp David split and isolated from the West, Gaddafi increasingly turned southward. He poured millions into the Organization of African Unity and funded projects in Mali, Niger, Chad, and Sudan. He presented himself as a unifier of the continent, telling African leaders, "Our destiny is one. We must build the United States of Africa." This period planted the seeds of his later African Union ambitions. Western intelligence services alleged that Gaddafi's regime continued to fund or assist militant groups. In 1996, Libya was accused of plotting to assassinate Saudi Crown Prince Abdullah. Meanwhile, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group attempted to assassinate Gaddafi near the city of Derna. The attempt failed, but it led to even harsher purges of Islamist movements inside Libya. Years of negotiations over Lockerbie reached a breakthrough in August 1998, when the US and UK proposed that the two Libyan suspects be tried in a neutral country, the Netherlands, under Scottish law. This gave Gaddafi an exit strategy. For years he had refused to hand them over, arguing that Libya would not bow to Western dictates. Now, with his regime under severe strain, compromise seemed possible.
Bill Taylor is not obliged in any way to prove the innocence of his client. He merely has to cast doubt on the prosecution case, and reference to Palestinian terrorists in Germany having the motive, the means, and by that he referred to luggage tags, to bomb-making equipment and to timing devices. He is suggesting that they could have been involved, and in fact that there is no evidence to support that his client was involved.
On the 5th of April 1999, Libya finally handed over Abdel al-Megrahi and Lamin Khalifa Fhimah to stand trial at Camp Zeist in the Netherlands. In response, the UN suspended sanctions, though they would not be fully lifted until 2003. The same year, Gaddafi also took a bold step in Africa, helping to establish the community of Sahel-Saharan states with a vision of deeper regional integration. By 1999, Muammar Gaddafi had endured nearly a decade of crushing sanctions and international isolation. He had shifted from pan-Arabism to pan-Africanism, fought off international challenges, and by handing over the Lockerbie suspects, won a temporary reprieve from the world's anger. But Libya was still under suspicion, and Gaddafi's reputation remained toxic. The coming decade would test whether he could rehabilitate himself or whether his revolution was destined to end in failure. Thank you for watching this video.
Weapons demolition teams have already been at work securing arms in rebel-held parts of the country, but their task is far from complete. It's known that stocks of mustard gas and other substances are stored in drums at a site southeast of the capital Tripoli. US intelligence is aware that hundreds of tons of raw uranium yellowcake is housed in a nuclear facility to the east of Tripoli.